Hello and welcome to StoryFellas, the podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci,
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
and I've got this new background,
Yeah,
and it's red.
it's ready.
If you're listening to this audio, you don't know. You don't know. Go check out the YouTube.
And my background is just my spare bedroom where all my baby stuff is at. Not my stuff as a baby, but stuff that I use from my babies.
It's your baby stuff.
My baby stuff. That snoo, I was in that snoo at some point.
Your wife is like, we got to get rid of this. And you're like, no, I'll find a use for it one day.
Snooze are pretty expensive. So, we're going to rent it out. You know what I mean? Don't worry, we'll make a buck off of it. But yeah, dude, I actually have a scrap of sorts.
All right. I'm ready for it.
So this is based on it being summertime. And the original tentpole movie and one of my favorite movies of all time is Jaws. And really, there aren't a lot of killer shark movies. So I thought it would be great to do a killer shark movie.
Okay. Killer shark movie.
So a little bit of a genre. It's not like I think it constitutes a scrap. You know, everybody wants to tell a killer shark movie.
Yeah. It's like you brought anthropomorphic mouse to this show once, and I feel like killer shark movie is. I was trying to think. I was like, is it just Jaws? But there's the Meg also.
Oh, there's the Meg. Deep Blue Sea. I was actually watching something about the sharks from Deep Blue Sea the other day, and how they were fully animatronic, which actually is really cool. Okay. There's some CGI ones in there too, but so yeah, it was on YouTube. Cool. And gave me the idea.
We just me and my wife watched a documentary the other night about Jim Henson, like the guy who made the Muppets.
Yeah.
And it just his life and went into Dark Crystal and the Labyrinth and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And the puppets in those are so cool. I don't think I've seen footage of Dark Crystal. I think I've heard about Dark Crystal.
Oh really?
I've
never seen it?
I don't think I've ever seen it, but seeing
the
some
Skelkies or whatever.
This thing looks awesome.
Yeah.
It's like all puppets.
Next time you're in Atlanta and you come to visit, we should go to the Center of Puppetry Arts. They have a whole room dedicated to Dark Crystal, and they have a bunch of the stuff from the movie. Yeah.
That's awesome. It just makes me like puppet stuff. Well, obviously we like practical stuff.
Oh yeah.
But puppets, animatronics, it's so cool, man. So cool what you
it
do
is.
in real life.
It is. I mean, especially in the age of just CGI, digital worlds, living a mediated existence where you can just live online terminally, and you know that's not good for you. You can listen to StoryFellas 24/7. That's not good for you. You don't
need that much of us.
You don't need that much of us. Let's be honest. But yeah, in that world, having a practical effect actually is refreshing. To have something real that the actor is looking at and experiencing, and you get a real reaction as opposed to, I guess it's all fake in some ways, but the actor is actually pulling real emotion out. And if they have to imagine like a tennis ball on a stick is something.
Yeah. It's like, I think they said the Baby Yoda with his little robot face was really easy to act with because it could react and move according to what they were saying.
Oh yeah. An instant icon too.
Yeah.
Would not have been otherwise. So a shark movie, a killer shark movie. And then go ahead.
Do we want to add some? Do we want to add some random stink to this one?
Some stink, yes. And if by stink you mean like requirements, then yes.
All right. Well, do you got some digital dice for me?
I do. Let me cue them up. How much you need?
Let's do a D10. And if we're really feeling it, we could also do a second one. We'll see. We'll see what the first one is.
I rolled a 5.
A 5. This feels like this fits perfectly in. Ominous fog needs to be part of the story at some point.
Ooh, that's perfect. I love that.
Let's do one more. You want to do one more?
Yeah, we're rolling. We're feeling good about it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be gamblers because I'm on a hot streak. I got the hot hand.
Let's get the hot hand.
Blowing on my dice. All right, what do you said another 10 one?
Yeah, give me another 10.
I rolled a 6.
A 6. All right. Well, the other one is Owen Wilson needs to be in this movie.
All right. It's got to have ominous fog and Owen Wilson. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Wow. This is really foggy. Wow.
Wow. Foggy. Kind of foggy out here, right? Kind of foggy. Yeah, I can do
Which is
that. I
funny
can do
because
that.
I actually I like Owen Wilson, but I don't feel like I see him in a lot of like thriller action
Yeah, he
stuff.
was in Anaconda. I remember that. And he gets eaten.
Was he really?
You see the impression of his body in the snake after he's been eaten. Yeah. Yeah.
He was in Anaconda? Am I
Yeah.
thinking of the right movie with the giant snakes?
Well, that's what an anaconda is. Yes.
I feel like I would have remembered him in that movie
No, I
though.
mean, it is
Is he
like
not
a.
the main guy? Is Ice Cube in this? I do not
Oh
remember
my,
this movie at all.
we're in an alternate reality where Tommy has seen Anaconda and didn't recognize anyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apparently. I think I saw it
Jennifer
like when I
Lopez,
was
John Voight, Eric Stoltz. He's the guy who gets the wasp in his throat. That's
man.
probably the ones
Maybe
off the top of my head.
I Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of another movie. Or maybe I saw this and I was just little and didn't clock any of the actors.
Mm.
Anaconda. So yeah, we're bringing Owen Wilson
Yeah,
back.
and
It's
the
like, hey
fog,
man,
that's a
remember
pretty easy one. You know, we might want to throw ourselves through a loop at some point. So maybe we can keep each other on our toes and just as we're going through this killer shark story, we can say like, you know what, I think something I thought about beforehand, which would be kind of interesting, is that it has to change genre halfway through, which is actually a callback to Jaws. That
mm-hmm,
Jaws starts out kind of like a horror film.
mm-hmm.
I don't think it actually fully really gets there in a lot of ways, but then when the three hunters go out to catch Jaws at the end, it's more of an adventure film. And so it just shifts very seamlessly into that. And there's a whole section of the movie where it's just those three guys on the boat. Um, and I think
Okay.
that's really cool. So I don't know if we want to do a genre shift at some point, that could be kind of cool, just where one of us has to pull that lever.
Yes, I think so. I think at some point we'll have to it feels too normal for our brand right now, but I think we will
Yeah.
figure out the thing that changes it. So we got Owen Wilson. What does he do in this movie? What is his role? Is he the shark?
Mm. Yeah. Owen Wilson is the shark. Yeah.
Oh wow! Oh, this is real
Wow,
tasty
I'm a
humor.
shark. Wow.
Wow!
Whoa, I've got a fin. Whoa, I've got a lot of teeth. Yeah.
Kerchow.
Ka-chow, ka-chigga. Yeah.
Maybe he's not the shark.
Yeah. I mean, we could go animated. That could change it in kind of a cool way. Think about this. Like, this is just my creative. We're in the creative kind of
Yeah,
primordial soup here. It's like a Miyazaki killer shark movie.
Mm. Okay.
Doesn't that
Okay.
have like a vibe to it? And then honestly, you could dial back the wow. You could dial that back.
You save it. You save it for like
Yeah.
the
You
finale,
save it
and
for a
then
big
he's just
moment.
like he's looking over the horizon when the day is saved, and he's like, "Wow!"
Yeah.
And it cuts to black.
Yeah. Or it's like for something super mundane where he's just like, gets served a meal and it's like, wow.
I like an anime shark movie. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because that could be wild. So, are we gonna make Owen Wilson like maybe he's a young man? Maybe it's like this guy in his early 20s. Maybe that's the protagonist. I know
Yeah.
Miyazaki tends to center around children being the
That's a good idea.
protagonist,
Yeah. And
but
usually they're girls. So we could always make Owen Wilson a supporting character or a female main character. We could play with that if we're trying to really mash up
yeah,
the Miyazaki thing.
I just don't know if his voice could sell as a kid's voice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think he could be at this point for sure. I think, it's like Howl's Moving Castle,
Mhm,
Christian Bale, however old Howl is supposed to be,
mhm.
perfectly sells that. And that's the kind of performance I would be thinking from Owen here,
Yep.
is that he would just, be an older character. I think a captain of some kind could be nice, kind of like a Captain Ron character, the Kurt Russell character from the Captain Ron eponymous movie, where he has an eye patch,
I don't
and
know.
he's just kind of like a drunk captain. Fun movie, whatever. But yeah, this would be like, I think picking a setting could help us because depending on where sharks attack, which could be anywhere, but probably somewhere tropical. We could either be on like the coast of Africa, a lot of great whites down there. I'm assuming it's a great white. Could be a tiger shark, could be a bull shark.
I'm thinking because you got me thinking with the Miyazaki stuff. Um, and if this is too wild, we can pull it back. But what if it's like not on the ocean? You know, like what if there's like
Mm.
this like internal landlocked place, and there's just this like rumbling one day, and then this like wave comes and this street floods, and there's like this massive shark creature, like he's like a, I don't
Hmm.
know,
That is
like a
very Miyazaki. He'd be a shark spirit in the
he'd be like
Miyazaki.
shark spirit, and then he's attacking, but then like people don't know what causes the water, what causes him to attack or something. Like
Yeah.
there's no ocean around them, so it's really scary. But I don't know if that's taking too much, to going too crazy, you know?
Hmm.
Because then like we don't have a home base for the shark. There's
Yeah.
nowhere to
No,
go after the shark.
that's true. I mean, at that point, we're just in full creative, like uncharted territory, for lack of a
Mm-hmm.
better way. Like it would just be total auteur territory. We're not really
Yeah,
in
that's
any
true.
identifiable genre. You could just do crazy stuff. Um, Maybe we could go full Osmosis Jones here, where we
Ooh.
shift from being animated to being real at some point.
Okay.
That could be our shift. Um,
And Bill Murray's there.
yeah, we are. Yeah, we're going like, I don't know, Wes Anderson-y, I guess. Like that's we're starting to really mash up our directors here, but or we can just save the we just plant our feet in the Miyazaki world and go from there. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Like,
Let's we can do a little Miyazaki. We just don't need to make it as crazy. Like let's put it on the coast. Let's like
yeah,
make that like a base so we still have like some fundamentals of like normal how things operate.
yeah,
And maybe when they go out to sea, wacky stuff happens. But it's not like the sharks coming to them, you know?
that's fair.
It's like
I
it's
think
ocean.
this resort is maybe being plagued. A Mexican resort is being plagued by shark attacks. And
Hmm.
so they hire we're really in the third act of Jaws. So we kind of start on the third act. Like the town
Hmm.
hired Quint. They finally did it, and maybe our shark hunter is actually Owen Wilson. And he shows
He's
up.
Drill Bit Taylor.
Yeah,
Comes
Drillbit
and
Taylor shows up, and wow, I'm gonna catch that. Now I'm just Jimmy Stewart, but
yeah, that's Jimmy Stewart.
I'm just gonna catch that shark.
Jimmy Stewart's just a background character.
Yeah, unexplained. He just shows up. What is this, Sharkville? um, but no, I think we have Owen Wilson. We give him a little bit of a dramatic thing here, right? Again, we said we dial him back a little bit, so we don't need to go full crazy, but make him a shark hunter who just lives on the coast. He's just an American guy who's lived on the resort or been, maybe he can be burnout, kind of drunk type guy, but they're like, you're the only one nearby that can help us. Like, go help us. So the arc is really an internal kind of struggle with him,
Mhm.
the beast within, maybe. Because sharks like never sleep. We could play with that thematically, where I think they actually do sleep, but it's kind of cool to think that they don't. They never stop swimming, I think is what it is. So they're always moving. And so this idea that whatever his issue is, whether it's like some sort of addiction, it's like it never sleeps. His addiction never leaves him, or maybe it's a pain thing. Maybe he got hurt. And he's got to cope with that kind of. That would be the thematic journey anyway. And the shark is symbolic of this never sleeping, always consuming, in the need of always to consume type thing. I really like this. I'm really liking what I'm spitting here.
Yeah, I feel like so we're kind of just popping in media res with shark attacks. Like we're kind of starting.
I think we'd
with
open
like,
with
hey,
an attack. We'd open with one.
There's a problem. We need someone to take care of this. And yeah, he has some sort of problem. They kind of rope him in. He just kind of lives in a little shack beachside situation.
Totally.
He kind of is Drillbit Taylor a little bit.
Yeah.
But in a more serious role. In a more serious role. And then I'm trying to think through, is the story like he sets out to sea to go get this shark? Because like
I would think so.
I feel, do we want any crew with him?
I was gonna say some sort of supporting characters for sure. This is if we want him to be the main character. We could pull it in where, there's like a little girl or like a young woman kind of thing, who maybe wants to tag along with him because her fiance was killed by the shark while she was there, and she hasn't even been able to like go home. I think that's kind of interesting. Maybe we open up on her fiance dying.
Okay, that could work. So we've got this girl who's like, I don't know, late 20s or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's kind of a bold move for her to want to go after the shark, like if she has no experience fighting sharks.
That's fair. I think you could flip the script a little bit, and you could. I actually kind of am interested in this. It's actually a woman who is killed, and it's her husband who sticks around, and he's got the vengeful type thing where he's like, I need to kill. I need to be a part of whatever it is that killed her.
Okay, I think that actually fits the bill because, like, I could see some guy just feeling like he could do it, you know, like being overly cocky. And then Owen Wilson's kind of this, like, almost chill, retired captain.
Surfer, maybe like, you know, yeah. And I mean, you could go full Quint a little bit and have him be like a crusty kind of sea captain, and he's got his arm that's been bitten off or whatever. And he's like, wow, man, you know, my arm got bit off.
I think if it's him and he has a first mate who's maybe like a local guy, like he says in Mexico, it's a local guy.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, we're going to go. And then we're going to go take care of the shark because it's terrorizing the coast. And then this guy lost his fiance. And then he's like, I want to come with you. And he's like, you don't need to do that. And he's basically convinces them to let him join. And then I think that's an interesting dynamic if it becomes way more dangerous. And I don't know if we want to throw some sort of minorly supernatural aspect into this thing, but this guy who's vengeful, but not at all experienced. And then we have him and his first mate who are actually like super competent, even if he's got a like they're like, we're not just like, we might look like beach bums, but we're actually avid. We're good at this. We're good at what we do. And like, they've got harpoons and weapons and they know how to handle, like, they're like, it'd be cool if you did take this a little supernaturally. If they're like, there's bigger sea beasts that we've taken care of in the past, like where they've like are ocean monster hunters or something like that.
That's kind of cool. I think that's something that I would pass on to the sidekick, that he would say like, hey, they're, you know, we have been out on the sea and taking care of monsters or whatever. That's cool because it also, again, it goes back to the thematic level of like, what's the monster in this movie actually? And it sounds like unresolved issues, right? Like Owen Wilson has that, you know, and that's why he acts the way he does. And then so does the husband, whatever their names are, which might be a good time to stop and actually.
Yeah, let's give these three some names. Owen Wilson can be Captain.
All I can think of is Tommy.
I was gonna say Captain Stacy, Captain.
Yeah, okay, I could get behind that. Like obviously as a guy's name. That's kind of rare. Like Stacy Keach, the actor, or maybe that's his last name. You know.
Yeah, and then I'm just throwing out some names. The first mate could be. Hit me with some names, Zach. I'm drawing some blanks.
Cristiano, Alphonse, Pedro, Dominic. I mean, these are just names that are in my head. Dom, you know, for
I
short.
like Dom. I wanted like something short and sweet for his first mate. Yeah, and I think Dom is cool.
Is good. Yeah, take that from Fast and the Furious, right? Yeah,
first mate.
And then, I mean, you could go pretty much any classic strong white guy name, or you could give him some other name, you know, like if you wanted to be really weird. Yeah. I thought Stacy was fine.
All right, we were talking Stacy. Like, what if that was? I think you said if it was his last name. What if it was like Jake Stacy?
Yeah, that sounds great. Captain Jake Stacy. That's Owen Wilson. wow, my name's Jake. Well, I can't stop doing Jimmy Stewart now,
You
dude.
just
I have
he's
to
like
just
he's stowaway in the boat. He's like,
yeah,
oh wow.
yeah.
They're like,
Oh,
Jimmy, get back in the crate.
oh, Jake, my name's Jake. Jake Stacy. They're
Wow.
so
Oh
close in my
wow.
mind and in my
Wow.
mouth. I don't know if I can do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like
Wow.
the Jimmy comes like through the chin, and
Yeah.
Owen has to kind of come out of the side. Oh
Wow.
wow. Like kind of like
I'm
from the
Jake.
side of the
Nice to meet
mouth.
you. I'm Jake. Jake
Um,
Stacy. Whatever. We got ourselves into it now.
and
So
then we need our widower. We need a widower name.
how about Colton?
I like it. That's great.
Perfect. Just slinging it. Now, I will say, typically with, any story, I was reading something the other day and I can't remember if it was KM Weiland or somebody else, but they were saying that films come down to conflict between two people. So it's gonna be Jake Stacy and Colton. They need to have some different perspectives on something. And that would be like handling the grief, right? Like handling the loss. So Jake Stacy is what would happen to Colton if he just gave in to his loss. And so I almost feel like we're setting ourselves up to have it be Colton like forgives the shark. Like,
I love you,
which I think is stupid.
Yeah, I want to explore because I feel like I don't want to make it a one for one, but like draw inspiration and then pivot it enough from Will Turner and Jack Sparrow, because it feels like it's almost a little bit that dynamic where you've got some guy who's more classic, traditional, like knows how normal day works, and then you have kind of an eccentric shark hunter.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make them discount versions of those characters. I think I do want Owen Wilson to be, or Jake to be, good at what he does. Like he's actually fairly competent at fighting these monsters. He might be kind of a drunk. I think he's more just kind of beach bum. Like you took Jack Sparrow and turned up the beach bum and turned down the like kind of like crazy wobbly.
Yeah. The Pepe Le Pew. Yeah.
Yeah, he's French.
Yeah.
And then Colton. So do we want to say that this was like his new wife? Like, did they just get married?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's the full, we open up on her death, which again, this is like a real Jaws homage almost at some point, because it's like open up with a woman and she can get up early in the morning. I think actually there's a really cool dream sequence in my mind where they never recovered her full body. They just recovered the hand with the ring on it. Wow. Which is actually very similar to Jaws, but bear with me here. That they catch the shark within a certain amount of time and they're able to get her body out of it. Or maybe he dreams about it. And the whole thing is that he sees her and she like talks to him in his dream, like from the shark's belly. I think that's kind of dark and scary and cool.
Yeah, it's neat. I like the idea of this kind of like he has dreams of her talking to him. Or like even if we portrayed her as kind of like an ocean spirit, like her being like hunched in a shark belly, being like, "Help me!" Like it feels.
Well, I think the shark. It would just be, again, it's a dream sequence, so the shark would be big enough. It would open up, and then she would kind of slide out, and she'd say like two things. It wouldn't be like a full conversation or anything.
Yeah.
Or maybe he gets swallowed, and he's like in there with her.
It actually makes me think of
in a dream style.
Yeah, it makes me think of Scavenger's Reign, which is that animated show that was on HBO. I think it's on Netflix now. But there's like this minor spoilers, I guess. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear it. But there's this one guy who befriends. He like serves this little alien thing that's like on all fours, and it grows to the size that like it just absorbs him. So it's like in the alien's stomach, and like at some point someone's like fighting with it and like slashes it, and it like opens up, and there's just like a full dude like
whoa,
like in there, and like looks out, and then like it like heals back up, and then like something like that. Obviously it's like dream logic, so it's like him fighting the shark, and then like he sees her, like he's trying to like cut her out of the shark.
I think that's interesting, and it's really more about retrieving the wife. Like that's the conclusion. And I think maybe what ultimately Colton's arc is that he gets his wife and is able to put her in the ground, whereas Jake's daughter or somebody who was killed, was
Mhm.
never recovered.
Yeah, I think Jake needs to die maybe at the end.
Yeah, it's very Quint. Very Quint.
Um, we'll see. I've not seen Jaws like in a really long time, or if ever. I don't know if I've ever seen Jaws, man.
You've never seen Jaws?
I don't think I have.
Oh, wow, man. Come on. We need to pause this, dude. Pause and go watch Jaws.
I'll go. All right, pausing. Boop. I'm back.
Yeah. Tommy's watched it. He watched the 2-hour movie. No, it's amazing. It's amazing.
No,
It's a
I need to watch
masterpiece.
it. It's just, yeah, it's fallen off my radar.
It's
But
such a good drama. But I guess I'm falling into the classic arc of, okay, literally Jake is Colton if he never got the resolution. Like he never got to bury his loved one, so the shark just ate them. Or maybe they drowned. Maybe they drowned. Like they went out. It was his brother or something, and they were out on the ocean at night, kind of goofing off when they were younger, and his brother fell off, and he could never find him. And so that's why he's on the ocean, just to begin with, and that's why he became kind of a naval guy.
oh, we're talking about the Jake guy.
Yeah, the Jake's
Sorry.
background.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like the idea, like him on the ocean. I like him losing a brother seems like that could be a good motivation for him. I'm trying to think. I'm skipping a little ahead to the ending of like what the closure for these things look like, because I guess they need to kill the shark, right?
Yeah, I would
If they're
assume.
gonna try to get the girl out of the shark.
Yeah, which I think is kind of cool in like in a weird like genre on your head kind of moment where not that they thought that she would be alive, but just it's not even about saving someone who's alive. It's just about the closure of it.
Mm-hmm.
That sharks digest really slowly, so there might be something left of his wife, and that's dark and gruesome. I get it, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cool.
It's a little dark. I just had this joke in my head where it's like they're like, we're gonna do it, we're gonna get the shark, and then like Dom pops up with a bazooka, and they're like, no, 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 and he like shoots and blows up the shark. And he's like, I need to get my wife out here. He's like, oh, I completely forgot about that, man.
Oh yeah, sorry, dude. Yeah, no, I think, but like that, we talked about like pulling the trigger to kind of have, a genre twist or whatever, and we're still in a Miyazaki space here. So for those, this is like a pretty acid trip movie for most people listening.
I forgot this was animated. I was picturing it at real life at this point.
Yeah, and so it could be probably way more whimsical, pushing it into that direction.
I think actually would help with the heaviness, because like a live action of a guy who's like, I'm gonna pull the shark, my dead wife out of the shark.
Yes,
feels like, but it's like something about a whimsical Miyazaki is like, oh, there could be hope. Like it's like real. I don't know. It's like whimsical in that way that it could
be
work.
magical. We could up the magic a little bit where they meet like seaweed imps and stuff like that. Like their boat gets caught in a big seaweed thing, and all these imps come up onto the boat. That's kind of cool, and they just are terrorizing them. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what a seaweed imp does.
I don't know, but it sounds cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's it's kind of like The Boy and the Heron, some of the boat scenes where
Never seen it.
Oh, well, it's a bunch of pelicans attack, and there's like some weird guys in boats. A lot of Miyazaki stuff. Just close your eyes and picture Miyazaki stuff on the ocean, and that's what it's kind of like.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm Captain Jake Stacy. Wow.
I'm trying to thread this thing, like how supernatural we want to go, because like we could just have like little magical, like there's little imps and stuff, but the story is basically the same. They're there to hunt the shark. Do we want the shark to be semi-sentient, like it communicates with them, or it talks to like? Because I think Colton,
cool.
some closure could be like he doesn't kill the shark. Like it's like him realizing that that's not gonna fix anything. Like he just needs to let his wife go. And maybe like the spirit of her kind of communicates that to him at some point. Or if he has some altercation with the shark and almost kills it, but the shark is like a spirit that talks.
I get that we're in the whimsical Miyazaki space, but I just think it's not satisfying for him to not kill the shark.
Okay.
I mean, especially if he's like trying to get her body out of it and he has the shark in front of him.
Yeah.
I think that can happen. I kind of like that happening way far away. Like how I would execute that is I would just have them open the shark on a dock, like way far away. Um, like you're just in a super wide shot, and that's it. It's like it happens, and then we maybe cut to her grave or whatever. We don't need to get super lurid with it. Um, but
Okay.
or we this is the reason they go out, and then we
Mhm.
abandon it altogether. So like they get shipwrecked, and they're just stuck
Mhm.
in the open ocean. And so that's the genre twist. Is like, oh, you thought they were after the shark, and maybe the shark can come back in, knowing that now that they're stuck at sea.
Mhm.
But I kind of like that, where it's like the situation ultimately has changed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that makes sense. So they go out. I feel like there's just a middle of this movie that I'm trying to figure out what happens.
Yeah.
And I'm also fine to back away from the Miyazaki. Like we can make it not whimsical and not magical, where it's just this guy wants vengeance. Jake, I don't know what he wants in this moment. Like clearly he just is, this is what he does. He's kind of like a
Well, maybe we
tool
dial
and
Jake back
all
a
he
little
does.
bit, and maybe Jake is just more of like a functional character. He's not like a thematic foil in any way, which sucks because that's like good writing, you know. Like that all the characters have a purpose, and that Dom even would have like a position on like grief, and that Dom would have a monologue at some point that would be about like how to exercise grief that's like stuck inside of you.
Mhm.
Just like the woman's body is stuck inside the shark in some ways, like the grief is stuck inside of you. Um, write that
I
down, write
like
that down, write that down.
I like that. That's actually good. That's getting me sold back onto them doing more stuff again.
Yeah.
Because like maybe they're all grieving. They're all heartbroken in their own way.
Yes.
Um yeah, you write down that line. Write
Oh,
down
I'm
that
writing it
line.
down.
Can you hear us typing, folks? We're all
Um,
just writing down these notes real quick. Um because
yeah.
there's a book called, and maybe that's the genre twist, that it starts out like this thriller adventure and maybe it becomes more of a drama, like a more of a like weird
Yeah,
life of
that's true.
Pi
I
situation.
think, yeah, that actually aligns with something that I was just thinking, which is that they catch the shark really early on.
Like
And they
immediately.
actually like immediately, like it's
They
already
back the
dead.
boat out and it like
And
kills
it
the
hits it.
shark.
The propeller kills the shark. Yeah, but they get out there, they spend a couple days, whatever. But they get out there, right? And they get to know each other a little bit. They get the shark up onto the boat, and they confirm that it's that she's in there, right? And maybe that's when they get shipwrecked. Like that's actually when the boat capsizes, and so the shark is dead. Um, and now we're in this position where Jake and Dom are trying to survive. We can kill them off maybe, and then ultimately it's just Colton that's left.
I think that's cool because it does feel like it's got that Knives Out feeling of, oh, this movie's about hunting the shark, and they get it like within the
Yeah,
first 30 minutes or so. And
yeah,
you're like, what is the rest of this movie about? And I like the idea that we're dealing with him because he's got this vengeance and he's thinking, oh, I gotta go kill this shark and I have to
hmm
get this closure. And he just does it and he doesn't feel better. And
yeah.
then it's
That's really
properly
interesting.
dealing with grief.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I like the idea that, the ship capsizes and it's just them stuck at sea. So there's some high adventure still, obviously. And we could even bring in
Hmm.
some of these Miyazaki whimsical things now, where
Hmm.
it's this kind of supernatural, the shark's body almost like that's kind of interesting. Or maybe he has his wife's body. Again, this is dark, but I don't mind it in some ways that his wife's body is like in like a giant plastic container that they have sealed up, like what's left of her, right?
Oh wow.
And so he's like floating on the ocean on that.
Mm, that is dark.
Yeah, I know, I know. I mean, this is like way more Zach Lovelace than it probably needs to be,
I,
but that actually lends itself to be um, the symbol at the end, which is that he gives it up.
hmm
You
I
know,
I'm gonna throw a pivot that's similar because like when the boat capsizes, are they just like floating on wreckage, or do they like form kind of like a some raft, or Like
I think
how?
yeah, I think the boat is like capsized, so it's just like the hull of the boat. You know,
Okay.
it's upside down or the keel or whatever it is. I'm not a
Mhm.
boat guy. That yeah, they're on top of it, and so and there's some other wreckage, right? And life rafts and stuff like that. Not a boat, not like a dinghy or anything, but they're just like in the water. Um, and so yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's pulling us into that Life of Pi, like more
Yes.
introspective stuff of them talking and dealing with their emotions. Um, I like the idea. And do we still want to make this animated, kind of like
Yeah,
whimsical
I think so. I think so because
animated?
I think you push it, and maybe it's like a lot of the
I th-
films that have been nominated for best animated feature for the past couple of years, to be honest. Like they deal with dark, heavy themes. Um,
mhm.
like I think I Lost My Body was one, and it's about like a hand, like a severed hand.
Mm. Oh
Um,
wow.
that's like running around looking for its body. And anyway, and there's like war zone movies about the Middle East and stuff. I think is it Breadwinner is one of them that's like that, where it's about a family that's like completely separated in a Middle Eastern war zone. Anyway, my point is there's an adult animation space that certainly this could fit in,
Mhm.
and I think us pushing the wife in the box is a good idea.
Okay, I'm gonna add my pivot though,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
because the wife in a box feels very dark,
Mhm,
and like I
mhm.
still want him. Like I don't want him to be by himself, because I feel like we want to do some stuff with the captain and the first mate as well, or do we want them gone and it's just like a
I think
solo movie?
they can either get separated or we just kill them off over time. Like, so they're in it and they can argue and they can fight. But then, yeah, it is, I think it is a little bit of Colton versus God, I think,
Hmm.
by way of nature.
Okay.
So
I
you
I
throw
was
all
gonna
these things
say
in there.
if we're making it um if we're making it kind of whimsical, one way that we could add a supernatural element to it is like guise it under, and I feel like maybe Life of Pi does this, I can't remember. They've been in the heat for so long, like weird things start to happen, and
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
the audience, it's like, is this actually happening or is this just in his head? Because I was thinking it'd be interesting if he doesn't. They killed the shark and they've like tied it up, and I don't know if this makes sense, but they're going to cut her out when they got back,
Sure.
but then they didn't get back. They capsize, and he's kind of like they form a little thing out of wood, and he has the shark still like tied to the side, and it's dead.
Floating.
Yeah, it's tied to the thing. I get like a lot of Old Man in the Sea
Oh, a
vision
little
of
bit.
this, like
Yeah.
him with this fish, but I think if it got hot enough and he was like hallucinating, the little seaweed imps could come up. That could be interesting. I think it
Yeah.
could be interesting if the dead shark
Starts
started
talking.
talking,
Yeah. That's cool.
and it was either the shark's voice or it was his wife's voice
Or both.
or both. Yeah, but it's just you also get. I'm tying a lot of things into this, but Swiss Army Man, like this like corpse that talks that doesn't actually
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
move or
Yeah.
anything, because I think that gives him. Because once we're at this point, it's like you said, it's him versus God, it's him versus nature. And I think him having something to converse with to work through his stuff
Of course.
is helpful. And the
That's
shark is just, it feels like it's right there.
Oh,
That's
I
dead
agree. I
shark
agree. I
is
love
right
that idea.
there.
That most of the movie is him floating around with this dead shark. Either he's on the keel of the boat, on the bottom of the
Mm-hmm.
boat, and he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the captain, Dom and Jake Stacy have been separated from him somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But they come back and they rescue him.
Yes.
So that we just spend most of the movie with him dealing with this internal battle externally expressed. And so yeah, you have the shark starts talking, his wife inside the shark starts talking. Um and yeah, it's his dialogue with these functionaries, I guess, of God, that like, why would you let this happen? And the shark is like, oh yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what the shark would sound like. But that is just a cool concept. And then the
Mm-hmm.
seaweed comes
I think
in, a
it,
storm comes in, all that stuff. And eventually he's got to let his wife's body go. He's got to let the shark's body go, right? They caught
yeah.
it, but now he has to let it go. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. I think that's actually really cool. I also think it's really cool the two voices coming from the one shark and like the mouth moves. Like it'd be like,
Yeah.
Colton, I don't want you to blame yourself. And he's like, I don't see what you see in this guy. Like, it's just like the
Yeah,
shark
yeah.
is very antagonistic. And I don't know. Like, I think this, obviously, this type of story would take a lot of sitting and thinking of like, what are these conversations?
Yes,
Clearly, the
there's like
overarching thing is him
ups and
learning to get
downs.
closure.
Yes,
Hmm.
agreed. And I think, yeah, the plot points would be argument points that he would have with the shark, with his wife. And maybe he could even talk to his wife for a long time about like, why did you even go out? Like, I'm blaming you a little bit. And so he's
Oh,
exercising
yeah. Like,
all of
he's like
these.
angry.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
angry at her. He's angry with himself. And he's like, we had just fought the night before. Maybe that's the whole thing. And it's
Hmm.
like a little bit of the story is this whole like marriage isn't perfect, but I thought it was going to be. You know, we were in paradise
Hmm.
and we were the perfect couple. And you kind of play with that whole thing. And now he's this, guy whose wife got eaten by a shark. And yeah, he doesn't have like the strength to go back to his normal life. And he kind of wants to stay in this paradise. And I think eventually he does get rescued by Jake and Dom. And maybe that's when Dom actually gives him that monologue where he can say that like something really thematic. Yeah. I don't know if I said my line yet.
Oh, I don't
Uh,
know. If you got a line, do you want to share it now or share it at the end?
I mean, I can share it now. It's
All
a
right.
little bit rough, but I just figured, it's a little of that Captain Phillips moment where Tom Hanks has been rescued. Maybe not as traumatic, because he was like
Hmm.
hyperventilating and not able to actually talk. But Dom is consoling him on his journey, and he's come to his full journey too. He let his wife's body go. He let the shark go into the waves and everything, and
Hmm.
he has like a blanket around him in this other boat, and they've come back and they've rescued him. Like, oh, thank God we found you, and maybe it's either Dom to him or him to Dom. They have this kind of silent moment where he's giving him some like coffee or something like that, and Dom tells him it takes time. If you don't know this, it actually takes a long time for sharks to digest things. And odds are, your wife's still going to be in that shark for a long time. That doesn't sound super consoling necessarily.
He's like, dude,
Do you know what I
thanks,
mean?
man. Yeah.
But he could say something like, maybe it's Colton who actually says that. He's like, on our way down here on the plane, I was reading about sharks, ironically enough, and I read that their food can stay in their belly for like a month. And um, Dom is listening to him say this, and he's struggling with it. It's like this is the kind of the catharsis, he's putting it all together kind of moment, um, and he says, they carry that around with him for a month, and Dom tells him like, well, be sure not to carry what you're carrying for that long either.
I like that. I like that. It's a movie about grief. And I also had this image. I don't know if would a shark eat a shark? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, not like all in one bite, unless it was that big.
Well, yeah, no, but I think that is a nice forced closure. Like if he's um, like I just have this scene where the shark is tied to the thing. He's been out drifting for who knows how long.
Hmm.
He's been talking with the shark, and maybe some weird little magic things have been happening. And then eventually another shark starts attacking that
Yeah,
shark. It's trying to eat that shark. And he's like panicking because he's like, no, like I need this. I need the shark.
yeah,
And then that's like the wife and the shark are like saying like, you've gotta let me go or something like that. That's
yeah,
kind of like a forced closure. Um, but I don't know if you'd rather, and then like he like comes to his senses and he realizes he's like, yeah, like what am I like? I have a dead shark strapped to my thing here.
yeah.
Is this like really worth it? I don't know if you like that or if you'd
I
rather
like that a
him
lot.
just
I
like,
think that would be really interesting because then the shark talking to the other shark about eating
mhm,
him, and he's like, "Yes, brother, yes." He just they're just eating machines. And they're
mhm,
like, we're just doing what we're programmed to do, and you're just doing what you're programmed to do. Or that's the difference between humans is they can defy their programming, or
yeah,
whatever. And they talk to him in these kind of naturalistic ways. Um,
because I like that scene where he kind of like gives it up and lets the shark eat the other shark and
mhm.
his wife by proxy, and he just kind of like goes to the other side of his little little life raft and just like sits there. And then I like the idea of like the next scene is him waking up to Jake's Stacy, like
Hmm.
he's like, we found you, like, and he like looks over and it's just like a shark skeleton on the edge of the, like
Hmm.
the shark is gone, like it's done, that ship has sailed, no pun intended.
Yeah, yeah,
And then he's rescued at that point, because then it's like that's what we're building up towards, of him letting go, and then once he lets
yeah,
go, then he's rescued pretty quickly after that.
yeah. There's a really interesting kind of theological point that I would like to work in here, and I'll just throw it out and kind of work it out
Hmm.
through just talking to you about it, which is that I think the grace of being rescued is what helps him let go. So he
Mm.
he is like stuck on this raft and he's just kind of stuck in his emotions. He's not able to let go.
Hmm.
And they like force like the grace is that they force him off of the thing.
Hmm.
Maybe Jake actually punches him. And that's kind of the thing is then he wakes up, maybe not wake up again, but he punches him and he's just stunned and weak and whatever. And he brings him on board. And I think that that's just really interesting. There's a nice metaphor there about being rescued and the
Hmm.
grace of being given life and then not knowing what to do with it. And then Dom is there to kind of transition him into what this next chapter of his life can be, which is digesting the grief or making
Hmm.
him realize that he actually has digested it. Um,
Hmm.
I think it's hard to sell that he's digested the whole thing within this one chapter, but
Yeah.
at least that he's on the right path. Um, and I actually do really like the idea that Dom being a local, like just walks him over to a. This might seem hacky, so if you just bear with me here, but walks him over to like a local church or something.
Hmm.
Like we're in Mexico, so a local
Hmm.
Catholic church or whatever, and that's just where he's just waiting to get a phone call or whatever from his parents or somebody. Um, and again, it's just they're just setting them there. It's not like he's there to pray or whatever.
Yeah, like he's
But
just like in the pews. Other people
yeah,
are there like lighting candles and praying, and he's
yeah,
just there. And maybe he like cries, like it just cries and kind of like in a cathartic way. Because I
yes.
feel like what's happening is throughout the whole movie, for a lot of it, is he's not actually experiencing grief. He's just like substituting anger and like
Well, he's working
vengeance.
through
And
the denial, anger,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the stages
But
of grief.
it's like him coming terms, like experiencing the fullness of it by the end, and being like sad, but taking the steps to move forward. Like obviously he's not
Yes.
better by the end of the movie, but I feel like, yeah, the captain saves him, Dom helps him. Maybe we hard cut to him meeting up with Dom, and yeah, I kind of like that image of like they take him. I don't think it's too hacky if they're just there sitting and it's like, hey, sometimes I come here just to think,
Yeah.
and then Colton just kind of is there
I,
and
I like that
breaks
a
down a little bit.
lot. I like that a lot. It feels like a solid resolution to this. So, looking up the 5 stages of grief, I think is a good way
Hmm.
to kind of recap this story for folks. So, we have an animated movie, which is in a Miyazaki style.
Hmm.
Owen Wilson just happens to voice
Voice
this
the captain.
captain, which I think is fine. Like that's actually fun, a fun little, you know, cool thing.
Oh yeah, and
And
there's fog somewhere. That's when he's drifting. I think there's like some
totally, I was about
foggy
to say
night. We
that.
did we
So
didn't we didn't plug that in, but
I
that
think
definitely happens.
the 5 stages, as I'm reading them here, are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So denial, I think we can get through pretty quickly, just where
Hmm.
the locals or whatever are telling him like your wife is dead, and he's just like no, no, and then we kind of exercise that really quickly, and then we jump right into anger, and that's where we spend
Hmm.
most of the movie. But then all of these other,
Hmm.
um, all of the magical elements can be indicative of that. So like a seagull shows up, and that's indicative of bargaining.
Mm.
So the it shows up, and it's like he's like, no, you can't take her from me, and or maybe that second shark is the bargaining thing, um, and that these seaweed imps are depression, and they're tying him down, and he has to kind of fight to get through it because the boat is about to sink. And he has to choose to
Hmm.
like go back onto the open ocean. So he's already like let go of his wife, but now it's like it's his journey to get through the grief. And then he
Mhm.
gets rescued at the end. They finally find him. I think that's cool. I think that's fun. And then you could go crazy with the knowing that they have like really solid symbols to rest on. The whimsical
Mhm.
elements of this. You don't have the wife in the box anymore, but you have the wife in the belly of a shark. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
I like it. It feels like a cool Miyazaki movie that has a solid backbone, and that's not like a super
No, it's super
but
plotty.
like, well, yeah, like because Miyazaki stuff tends to wander very broadly.
Yeah.
But this is a distinct like, hey, we are trying to visit these distinct characters that represent these distinct things. Um, and we're really just with him and the shark for most of it, which is
Yeah.
a cool
That's a cool
kind
dialogue,
of
like
yeah.
interesting way to explore that. Um, yeah, I'm all in for that, man. I think that
I
stuff
like
is
it.
really interesting. And so yeah, I think really you guys we answered our all of our requirements except for maybe the genre twist. I get well, the genre twist
Mhm.
is the going from the shark hunting to being like a play, essentially like a conversation, a drama.
Mhm.
It's kind of cool. A bait and switch, no pun intended. Um, but yeah, you got to be into that. And the fact that it's animated, I think, could be more contemplative. You know, that's the Miyazaki
Mhm.
kind of thing. I'm just letting the movie kind of take me somewhere. Um,
Mhm.
and there's something really cool and deep, again, no pun intended, about being on the open ocean and exercising these emotions, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a strong symbol for that. It's like pulling things up, things going under. And we can have things
Mhm.
come out, you know, like his mother-in-law comes out and starts talking to him, maybe through the voice of the seagull or something like that. Um,
Mm.
and you know that she's like badgering him or whatever. I don't know. There are a lot of really cool, whimsical things you could do that align well with the Miyazaki style. So yeah,
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think it's interesting. I think the hanging out with just them in the conversation is really neat, and it's just a cool world. It really makes me think. I haven't reread it in a long time, but when I was younger, I read The Old Man and the Sea, which is a very short
hmm
book, but I just remember loving it. Like I was like, it's very relaxing. It's kind of not a lot going on. It's just
hmm
this guy trying to catch this fish, but it's again another story of like one man versus nature, one man versus himself a little bit. And that feels like what we've got here, just with a bit more
hmm
fanfare and plot going on in the background.
yeah, and yeah, I do. I think it's in good company in terms of like the symbols and the size of the story. It just being one guy, you know, and then dealing with all these kind of fantastical characters. That's cool. I think it would be a
I
visual wonder.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. I think it'd be super cool to see an animated version of this.
2D animation, obviously.
Yeah, 2D animation, Jimmy Neutron animation. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, your grief story about your wife in a in the belly of a shark is going to be told through early 2000s hacky Jimmy Neutron style.
Brain blast.
Yeah. Jimmy,
Was
Jimmy.
I think we need a title. I've got some tentative ones.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you
I'm still
and
working on some, but yeah.
they're not complicated, but I feel like something like this makes sense to be simple, like Colton and the shark. Um, uh,
Yeah, boy in the heron,
you
you
said
know.
it's something, and it was like the wife in the belly,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
like interesting. Um, uh, I don't know. It makes me think of the boy and the heron. You
It
know,
does, yeah.
it's just that kind of vibe. Like it's an easygoing vibe.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
Colton
that's
versus the sea.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the really rough ones are like Sea of Sorrow or something like that. Like you put them in like
Mm.
the emotion. You're trying to talk about the emotion.
Hmm.
Grief Shark, Coral Grief.
Coral grief. Oh man,
Yeah.
dad joke over here.
Yeah,
I
Coral
don't.
Grief.
I don't think it can be called coral grief.
Yeah,
It's
you're
very good though.
right.
It's very good. I do
Yeah.
like Sea of Sorrow is pretty good.
Yeah,
That
it
also
doesn't
feels
have the
like that
bite to
fits
it.
the bite.
I know.
Um The Bite could be the name. The Bite.
I could actually get down for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't mind The Bite either. The Bite is kind of. I'm trying to see can I tie it to grief a bit more. Although, like,
yeah, I think you would just fix Dom's line about it being like. Although I like the slow digestion, we could lean into that as the theme, like digesting emotions, obviously, but it being about like things take a bite out of you. You know, out of that bite out of crime is what pops into my mind when I say that out loud. But you know what I mean? Like there's maybe even Jake Stacy, the captain, comes up to him and he's missing an arm and he's like, I have phantom arm, phantom limb thing. And sometimes I feel like my arm is there, that you're never going to lose the feeling that your wife is there. So maybe playing with that a little bit. Again, I'm just pushing the themes up to the front.
Yeah, I think I'm liking The Bite more and more. I feel like it could be a recurring thing that pops up because it's like the bite that took his wife. There's the bite of the other shark eventually attacking the shark. There's the bite from Captain Stacy. Like they all had to deal with some sort of bite. The bite of the ocean.
And it's the bite of life a little bit too. I know that we're like stretching that. We're playing that really hard and it sounds kind of dumb talking about it like this, but I do like that a lot actually. But that idea of the major wrestling with man versus God, man versus nature, that why do things even bite? Like we're in a fallen world. It's dark. Like nature is red and tooth and nail and I mean the shark's teeth, right? This idea that nature is set against us in some way. So that idea that nature is biting him, and what does he deal with that? So again, I'm kind of philosophizing a little bit about it, but I do like that a lot.
All right, well then we'll call this one The Bite, and it's our Miyazaki styled shark hunting, grief dealing story, and I like it. I think it's.
I would say
fun's not the right word, but it's interesting. It's like a cool, dark, but I think the style would make it digestible.
Yeah.
No pun, no pun intended.
Yeah, not our comment. Yeah, the most fun we're having in this episode is just hacky accents that we're doing, impressions we're doing, and all these puns that keep happening.
And then when he's in the church and then like he's like crying and then the hand goes on his shoulder and he's like, well, I'm very glad that you
I'm glad you survived the bite.
I'm the bite. And then I'm glad you survived. And he turns to the camera and he says, The Bite. And then the bite comes on the
and
screen.
A big, like, the credits come together. Yeah, we can end it that dumbly. That's fine.
No, there's no actual Jimmy Stewart in this movie. But we do need to end it on a line, which I know you dropped the kind of the big theme line earlier from Dom, but were there any others that you wanted to hit on?
No, I mean, they would just be pulled from the stages of grief. So you could pick one, and whatever one you feel like would be kind of an interesting moment that he's working through about letting go, obviously. I think that's the acceptance thing, like, or whatever. Or like, I really like the seaweed imps being depression and them tying him down and trying to like pull him to the bottom of the ocean. It's kind of interesting. Would they talk to him? Would they tell him that? These are all things that are just, it's so visual. The whole thing is so visual. So it's hard to come up with like a line outside of the one with Dom talking about emotions take time to digest as well.
Yeah, I do like the idea of, you mentioned the seagull representing bartering. Because I think that's kind of interesting because a seagull is like the animal that would represent like, you have something I want. I think I said bartering, but I think it's bargaining, right? It's bargaining.
It's bargaining, yeah.
Okay, my bad.
No, yeah, I mean, not a big deal. I don't know if there's like a total difference between bartering and bargaining, but I did think of another line. This one can come from Captain Jake Stacy or Owen Wilson, Jimmy Stewart combo. That just maybe at the beginning where he's realizing that Jake's obviously signing up to try and catch this shark and, and he's maybe trying to talk him out of it is maybe something that he's saying where he's like, we don't get to choose what sea we sail on, but we do get to choose how we sail.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.